Hi there, my name is Raul Sachamenapad, current Supreme Leader of Ecuador and former Governor of the Northeastern Federal District of Migos. Home to one of the earliest civilizations, Ecuador flourished during the 3rd and 2nd millennia BC and extended into the southwestern portion of the continent. Nomadic tribes from the northwest infiltrated the region about 1500 BC, and their merger with the earlier inhabitants formed what is now understood to be the national identity. For centuries, the country stood as a leading civilization, outpacing the rest of the world in the arts and sciences. But in the 19th and early 20th centuries, the country was beset by civil unrest, major famines, military defeats, and foreign occupation. Persistent problems include sluggish economic growth, unemployment, organized crime, corruption, and economic disparities between the South and the more prosperous North.
Ecuador is one of the largest countries in the world by land mass and possesses diverse climates within its borders. The west is dominated by arid and semi arid climates, while the central and eastern regions are far more suitable to agriculture. Furthermore, the southeastern portion of the country also contains large oil and natural gas deposits, which contribute to the emerging wealth of the country. The country is surrounded by a number of sovereign island countries that were colonized by countries number 3 and number 5. There are two mountain ranges in Ecuador, one in the south central part of the country and one near the ocean in the east. The mountains have historically prevented seaborne attacks from the south and east. Ecuador is ethno-linguistically diverse. Socially, the Tropini make up 55% of the population and are the largest ethnic group. The rest of the population is split among smaller ethnicities. The next two largest ethnicities are the Yukini and Enians, who both make up 14% of the population. Despite the ethnic diversity, the people are peaceful, as many believe in peace and diplomacy, which helps maintain the national identity that unifies the people. Ideologically, the West is more liberal and the North and Southeast tend to be more conservative. Everywhere else is a fairly healthy mix. The West is left leaning because of the arid climate, which has led to a lack of agricultural and economic development. The Southeast is more conservative because of the oil wealth in the region, causing those in the region to want to maintain the concentration of money in that region. The North is somewhat conservative because it is the wealthiest region of the country. One problem is the population, which is fairly old and has a negative growth rate. As the population ages, it puts strain on the welfare state as there is a greater demand for Social Security and other programs, and there are proportionally fewer people in the workforce that can pay taxes. Ecuador is a federal neo communist republic with a Politburo at the head. The Politburo is above the federal system, which includes 50 federal districts that each have a regional assembly. These regional assemblies have seats determined by plurality in single member districts. Each federal district has a governor that is directly elected via popular vote.
The executive branch is led by the Supreme Leader. The Supreme Leader is elected by the Politburo. Powers of the Supreme Leader include being the Commander in Chief of the military, the power to veto bills passed by the Politburo, the power to introduce legislation into the Politburo, the power to appoint members of the Supreme Court, and the power to set foreign and domestic policies. The bureaucracy is determined by the practice of nomenclatura. The bureaucracy at the national level is relatively big, and each federal district has its own small bureaucracy as well. To prevent some of the corruption and other rent seeking behaviors that used to plague the state, government employees are well paid.
I'm Governor Raspberry, governor of Bulk, one of the southwestern districts of Ecuador, and the legislative branch at the federal level consists of a 100-member Politburo, which is the lawmaking body of the Ecuadorian Communist Party. The Politburo consists of two officials from each federal district, the elected governor and the representative elected by the regional assembly of said district. Go. The Politburo has many powers, like the ability to pass laws with a simple majority, the power to tax, constitutional amendments can be made if 3/4 of the vote are in favor. They can remove the supreme leader from office with a 2/3 majority, and they have the responsibility to determine and pass the budget for the state. Though I serve at the national level now, I used to serve in the local legislature, and this is kind of how they work. Each federal district has 287-member regional assembly with seats decided by single-member districts. These regional assemblies have certain devolved powers and the ability to make some laws for its respective district.
My name is Esmeralda Morgun, and I am a Supreme Court judge in Ekvator. We have 9 Supreme Court judges that serve for lifetime terms that are appointed by the Supreme Leader and confirmed by the Politburo. The Supreme Court is the highest court of appeals in Ekvator. The Supreme Court has the power to review all laws that the Politburo passes to make sure they are in accordance with the Constitution.
In the past several decades, Ecuador has built up its military as it has gained wealth to prevent attacks on the country similar to those that occurred in the early 20th century. The commander-in-chief of the military is the supreme leader, but the military is separated from the rest of the government by a law in the Constitution that states that an individual cannot hold any position in the military and government at the same time.
In Ecuador, if you are a citizen and over the age of 18, you are allowed to vote. There are elections for regional governors in which the country is broken up into 50 regions. The governors of those regions are directly elected in 2-round elections with a runoff election between the top 2 candidates if no candidate receives a majority of the vote. Governors can serve for a maximum of 2 5-year terms. The Politburo then selects a new supreme leader every 5 years. For the elections for a regional legislator, the government's legitimacy in Ecuador stems from a variety of different things. There's a sense of traditional legitimacy, and the political system has avoided rampant corruption for the most part over the last 30 years, which has limited degradation of legitimacy. Legitimacy is also gained by having the people to vote directly in regional elections, which in turn lead to the election of the supreme leader. The Ecuadorian National Constitution was written in 1937, and this provides constitutional legitimacy. Citizens participate in politics in various different ways. People may participate through directly electing representatives for each district, who then convene and select the supreme leader. The people of Ecuador are allowed to form and participate in any sort of interest group to try and make a change to their government more directly. However, the formation of formal parties rival to the ECP is strictly prohibited. In more extreme cases, nonviolent protests have been an effective form of political participation. Former foreign occupation and a long, rich history have contributed to a strong sense of nationalism and unity as a country, despite high ethno-linguistic diversity. This is largely due to the fact that there are no coinciding cleavages between the different ethnic groups.
Ecuador has a neo-socialist economy. Most major industries are controlled by the state, and others, such as the oil industry, are dominated by parastatals. One notable parastatal is ESOC, the Ecuadorian State Oil Company. Though private ownership of property is allowed, tax rates are high, about 60%, to provide for a strong welfare state.
Hi, my name is Ali. I am the head of a women's rights advocacy interest group in Ekvator. Because Ekvator is communist, civil society is a very important part of political activism. Citizens can virtually form any interest group through the party, other than groups promoting hatred or violence. Large enough interest groups do gain governmental support and may be able to influence the regional assembly or Politburo policy.
Hopkins approved.